Welcome to Bethel Online Education Hub. Learn anytime, anywhere. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Let's learn together, the Bethel way. Good day, everyone, and welcome to our next lesson in understanding culture, society, and politics today. We are going to talk about Lesson 2, Human Cultural Variation, Social Differences, and Political Identities. In this lesson, we will discover what makes people different, how these differences affect our lives, and why it's important to value and respect diversity in society. Alright, let's begin. What makes people behave differently in different parts of the world? Have you ever wondered why people from different countries eat different foods, celebrate unique festivals, or greet each other in different ways? What's normal in one place might be unusual or even rude in another. So what makes people behave differently around the world? The answer lies in their culture, history, environment, and traditions passed down through generations. Today, let's explore how these differences shape the way people live, think, and connect. You might even discover something new about yourself. Human cultural variation. Human cultural variation means that people around the world behave differently because of the unique culture they grow up in. Every society has its own set of rules, beliefs, customs, and traditions that influence how people are expected to act in different situations. Culture is like a guidebook for behavior. It shapes what is considered polite, respectful, or rude in each place. What's normal in one country might be unusual, offensive, or even funny in another, because each culture has its own definition of good manners and appropriate customs. How do people learn these behaviors? People learn values, traditions, and social rules from the environment they grow up in through their family, community, religion, and educational system. Over time, these behaviors become part of their everyday life, often without them even realizing it. Example, in Japan, bowing is a polite way to greet someone. But here in the Philippines, it's common to greet people with a handshake or a beso, a light kiss on the cheek. These cultural variations make each country unique, colorful, and interesting. Why do people from different places live and believe differently? The reason people from different places live and believe differently is because of three important elements of human cultural variation. These are nationality, ethnicity, religion. These three elements are powerful because they shape how people think, act, and identify themselves. They help explain why one community may celebrate a certain holiday, wear certain clothes, or follow particular customs while another community does things completely differently. Let's briefly explain each one. Nationality. Nationality is a shared identity among people who live in the same country, under the same government, and who follow the same national laws, language, customs, and traditions. When people belong to the same nationality, they usually have a common history and culture that ties them together as one nation. It gives people a sense of belonging and pride because it reminds them of who they are and where they come from. Example, Filipinos celebrate Independence Day on June 12th and enjoy Christmas with family reunions. These national practices unite people as part of one country. Ethnicity. Ethnicity refers to a person's connection to a social group with the same ancestry, culture, traditions, and often language, and this can exist within a nation or across countries. Example, in the Philippines, we have ethnic groups like the Igorites in the Cordillera region, known for their traditional Canao rituals, and the Tausigs of Mindanao, famous for their Pangalay dance. Even though they're all Filipinos, each ethnic group has its own unique customs and history. Religion is a set of beliefs about the meaning of life, the universe, and how people should live. Different religious beliefs influence the way people dress, eat, worship, and celebrate special occasions. Example, Christians in the Philippines celebrate Christmas and Holy Week, while Muslims observe Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr. These religious practices shape everyday behavior, values, and family traditions. By understanding these three elements, nationality, ethnicity, and religion, we realize that our beliefs and lifestyles are deeply influenced by where we come from, the traditions of our community, and our faith. It also reminds us to be respectful and open-minded toward people whose customs and beliefs might be different. Diversity is not a problem, It's something that makes societies richer and more meaningful. How does nationality connect people? Nationality connects people through shared experiences, traditions, and symbols of identity. It gives people a reason to unite, especially during national holidays, sports events, or times of national celebration or crisis. It also influences the way people speak, the kind of holidays they observe, and the values they uphold as citizens of a country. These national customs help us feel connected to one another. Nationality matters because it helps people build a sense of identity, community, and loyalty to their country. It gives people a sense of pride and belonging, knowing that they are part of a larger group who shares the same history, struggles, and triumphs. It reminds us that even with our individual differences, we can come together as one people. But they can have their own distinct languages, clothing, music, dances, beliefs, and customs that make them unique, making our country culturally colorful and diverse. What are social differences, and how do they appear in society? Social differences are the ways people are different from one another based on their personal characteristics and social traits. These can include age, gender, religion, educational background, occupation, economic status, and even personal experiences. In short, it's the variety of qualities and characteristics that make each person unique within a community. These differences are visible in everyday life. We encounter people who think, dress, speak, and act differently based on their background, status, or role in the community. These differences affect how people live, what kind of opportunities they have, and how they relate to others. Social differences influence how people interact with one another, what responsibilities they hold, and the kind of experiences they go through in life. Let's take a classroom as an example. In one class, you might have students who are athletes who represent the school in sports competitions, academic achievers who excel in subjects like math or science, artists and performers who love painting, dancing, or singing. Each student is different, and those differences make the class more interesting and dynamic. The athletes bring school spirit and teamwork. The achievers offer help with academic lessons. The artists make programs and presentations lively. This diversity interests and abilities makes the classroom a vibrant and well-rounded environment, where everyone contributes in their own way. Recognizing social differences is important because it helps us become more understanding, respectful, and inclusive. It reminds us that no two people are exactly alike, and that's a good thing. Our differences make our community dynamic and give us a variety of skills, ideas, and talents that we can learn from and appreciate. When we value these differences, we build a society where everyone feels accepted and can contribute meaningfully. What is gender, and how is it different from biological sex? Gender refers to the roles, behaviors, responsibilities, and expectations that society assigns to people based on whether they are male, female, or others. Unlike what many think, gender is not just about whether someone is male or female. It's about how society expects people to behave because of their perceived gender. Gender is shaped by culture, traditions, and social beliefs, and it can change over time and from one society to another. What about biological sex? Sex is different from gender. Sex is determined by a person's physical and biological characteristics at birth, whether they are male, female, or intersex. This is based on anatomy and physical traits like reproductive organs and chromosomes. Unlike gender, sex does not change based on culture or society's expectations. Example: let's look at how gender roles have changed over time. Before, women were expected to stay at home, take care of the children, and do household chores, while men were expected to work outside, earn money, and make important family decisions. But today, these roles have changed in many parts of the world, including the Philippines. Women can now be doctors, pilots, engineers, police officers, business owners, or even national leaders and presidents. At the same time, men can now be nurturing fathers, who stay home to care for their children or work in careers traditionally seen as for women. This proves that gender roles are not fixed. They evolve based on how society grows and what people believe is fair and right. It's important to understand the difference between gender and sex because it helps us respect people's choices about how they want to express themselves, what roles they want to take, and how they see their own identity. When we understand that gender is shaped by society, and that it can change, we become more open-minded and accepting of people with different gender identities and expressions. How do gender and sex differ when it comes to identity? Sex and gender are two different things, especially when it comes to a person's identity. Sex is biological. It refers to whether a person is male, female, or intersex at birth based on physical features like reproductive organs, chromosomes, and hormones. It's something we are born with and is determined by nature. Gender, on the other hand, is social and personal. It's about how a person identifies themselves and how society expects them to behave based on that identity. While sex is about anatomy, gender is about identity, expression, and social roles, and it can change over time and across cultures. People recognize that gender identity is more diverse. People may identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, non-binary, meaning neither strictly male nor female, or other identities that feel right for them. This reflects society's growing understanding and acceptance of human diversity. Understanding this difference helps us be kinder, more respectful, and more accepting of others. We don't always know what someone is going through or how they see themselves, so respecting gender identity is a basic way of showing compassion and fairness. It also helps us build a society where everyone feels valued and included, no matter how they identify. What is socioeconomic class, and how does it affect people's lives? Socioeconomic class is a way of grouping people in society based on their wealth, income, job, education, and social privileges. In simple terms, it refers to a person's social and economic position in society, whether they belong to the upper class, middle class, or lower class. A person's socioeconomic class influences their lifestyle, the opportunities available to them, and their access to services like good education, quality healthcare, housing, transportation, and job opportunities. It also affects what people can afford, the kind of food they eat, the clothes they wear, the schools they attend, and the hobbies they can enjoy. Some people are born into wealth and privilege, while others have fewer resources but work hard to improve their lives. For example, some students are born into wealthy families and get to study in exclusive private schools with complete facilities and opportunities for international travel. Others might be born into poor families and attend public schools with fewer resources. We should value people for their character, abilities, and how they treat others, no matter what class they belong to. What is political identity, and how does it influence people? A person's political identity is the way they see themselves in terms of political beliefs, opinions, and actions about how society should be governed. It's about what a person stands for, the values they believe in, and how they want their country, community, or leaders to make decisions. Political identity reflects a person's opinions on important issues like human rights, education, healthcare, the environment, or leadership. Styles. How is political identity shaped? A person's political identity is often shaped by the groups they belong to, their family, friends, the community they live in, and the causes they support. People's beliefs are influenced by what they experience in life, see in their society, and the leaders or organizations they admire. It also develops through education, social media, news, and conversations about social and political issues. For example, some people actively support a political party because they agree with its principles or the leader's platform. Others may join advocacy groups or movements for causes like protecting the environment, promoting free education, gender equality, or defending human rights. Some express their political identity by voting during elections, participating in rallies, or using social media to share their views. Whether quietly or publicly, political identity influences how people choose leaders, respond to national issues, and participate in decision-making in their country. Political identity affects how people think, act, and relate to others in their community and country. When we understand this, we learn to respect different opinions, even when people disagree with us. It reminds us that a healthy democracy allows people to express their beliefs peacefully and responsibly. And when young people like you stay informed and involved, you help build a fairer, stronger, and more united society for everyone. Why is it important to understand human cultural variation, social differences, and political identities? Because it helps us understand, appreciate, and respect the diversity that exists in society. It reminds us that even though we may look, speak, act, or believe differently, those differences are what make our communities more colorful, meaningful, and stronger. When we understand people's backgrounds and beliefs, we learn how to live peacefully, work together, and support one another despite our differences. Take the Philippines as an example. We are a multicultural society made up of people from different religions, ethnic groups, social classes, and political beliefs. Some are Christians, some are Muslims, others are Buddhists or indigenous believers. We have Igorots, Tausegs, Ilocanos, Tagalogs, and Visayans. And yet, when we choose to respect each other's customs, beliefs, and opinions, we build harmony, understanding, and national unity. This is the kind of community we should all strive to create, one where everyone is accepted and valued, no matter how different they may be. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned a lot from our lesson about what makes human societies unique, colorful, and interesting. Always remember, diversity is not something to fear or avoid. It's something to appreciate because it makes the world a better place for all of us.